If someone was to ask me if I think that any one group that is operating on the planet or that I've seen has the full picture, I would say no. But if I were to combine two groups, I would say that together they have the full picture. Those two groups, folks, would be the Urantia book community, is one of them, readers of the Urantia book, and your raw vegan community that I see out there with on YouTube, like Fully Raw, Christina, various people that are promoting that lifestyle. Now, there's support for that in the Urantia book community, so this isn't, or in the Urantia book itself, so this isn't just my viewpoint or opinion. But like I was saying before, we're allowed to dismiss that because this book is not a list of don't do's. This is a list of do's. Do ascend, do experience more, do progress at your own pace. Don't beat yourself up. So if it was to say on page 1 that we shouldn't eat meat, then many people would reject this book because they're simply not at that level to understand that, and for whatever reason, they're not ready to tackle that, which the Urantia book understands. I mean, the beings that write the book understand. And they are more than happy to expound upon the spiritual information that we need in order to grow and gain in the next step. But for those who already understand the spiritual side of things, the faith aspect, the partnership with the divine, the brother and sisterhood of all humans, the next level would be literally experiencing those things and literally having profound spiritual experiences, attaining the Morontia state while here on the planet, translating amongst the living, leaving the planet consciously rather than suffering a material death, as is taught that many inhabited worlds, normal inhabited worlds, most of the humans leave their planet in that way. Really experiencing these profound spiritual states that maybe I've only had, maybe you're more advanced and you really have put it together. I've only experienced in glimpses, short glimpses, but I wasn't able to maintain the diet, and I wasn't able to walk in that light through my own shortcomings and weaknesses. But hey, not beating myself up, just continue on, carry on. When I have more strength to maintain the diet, then I will. But it was only in that when I was completely clean of the toxins and everything like that, that I was able to touch upon the Morontia state, which confirms to me this quote in the book about how it is a mind of perfect poise, housed in a body of clean habits, that the maximum of light and truth can be imparted. And that when physical conditions are ripe, sudden mental and spiritual advancements take place. It confirms that to me, a body of clean habits. All right, let's look at this quick, or not quick, but whatever. We're looking at the Garden of Eden here, people, on page 823, because there's insights that will give us about our own mode of living here. Let's just read and see. You can make your own judgments, obviously. The garden site. The committee on location was absent for almost 3 years. It reported favorably concerning 3 possible locations. So, background information. They're trying to determine where the Garden of Eden is going to be built for the coming material son and daughter. So humans are already on the planet. It doesn't teach, as the Bible does, that Adam was created out of man's rib and stuff like that, and then that we have to deny science. No, it says your evolution's a reality, but then when the humans reach a certain point, a material son and daughter, they call them the Adam and Eve, come to the planet, semi-spiritual beings to upstep the DNA of the human animals, basically. I mean, they are humans, right? But they're very primitive. And to get them to the next level, this superhuman type of level. And so they're trying to find where they want to make the location for this material son and daughter who have not come to the planet yet to come. The first was an island in the Persian Gulf. The second, the river location, subsequently occupied as the second garden, which happened after the first one, you know, there was default here as well. The third, a long, narrow peninsula, almost an island, projecting westward from the eastern shores of the Mediterranean Sea. The committee almost unanimously favored the third selection. This site was chosen, and 2 years were occupied in transferring the world's cultural headquarters, including the Tree of Life. This is a semi-spiritual material that was able to sustain the semi-spiritual beings on the planet at the time, to this Mediterranean peninsula. All but a single group of the peninsula dwellers peaceably vacated when Van and his company arrived. Van was one of the more loyal beings from the original Prince Caligastia and his staff. Or I think he might have been one of the human associates. I forget. This Mediterranean peninsula had a salubrious climate and an equable temperature. This stabilized weather, it's probably painful listening to me read, but this stabilized weather was due to the encircling mountains and to the fact that this area was virtually an island in an inland sea. While it rained copiously on the surrounding highlands, it seldom rained in Eden proper. But each night, from the extensive network of artificial irrigation channels, a mist would go up to refresh the vegetation of the garden. So they were advanced in that. They were understanding, you know, these interesting ways of irrigation. The coastline of this landmass was considerably elevated, and the neck connecting with the mainland was only 27 miles wide at the narrowest point. The great river that watered the garden came down from the higher lands of the peninsula and flowed east through the peninsular neck to the mainland, and thence across the lowlands of Mesopotamia to the sea beyond. It was fed by 4 tributaries which took origin in the coastal hills of the Edenic Peninsula, and these are the 4 heads of the river which went out of Eden. That must be something from the Bible, and which later became confused with the branches of the rivers surrounding the second garden. The mountains surrounding the garden abounded in precious stones and metals. These received very little attention. The dominant idea was to be the glorification of horticulture and the exaltation of agriculture. It's in the Urantia book, people. I recently had somebody comment and say, well, geez, I don't want to have to read between the lines and deduce this idea that we're supposed to be plant, vegetarians, vegans, and things like that. Well, you're going to have to add something to that. You're going to have to add, and also animal husbandry. Okay? The dominant idea was to be glorification of horticulture and exaltation of agriculture and animal husbandry. People want to put that in there because they want to feel okay about diving into that animal slaughter. And that's fine if that's where you're at. We're trying to have spiritual unity here and everything like that. Well, I mean, it's not fine for the animal, but it's, you can still continue intent. So this isn't talking down or anything like that to people. And this isn't saying you can't be a member of the brother and sisterhood of men and God just because you haven't got your diet or anything like that. But be careful of that self-deception, folks. Here's another great self-deception. Grass-fed. Oh, it's okay if I do grass-fed. Well, I saw a video on grass-fed recently. They got all the animals locked up in this thing that goes around their neck. They're all trapped in this thing, and this big truck comes by and just dumps all this grass all over their head. It's disgusting. It's a disgusting, filthy practice. It's a satanic practice. Really, it's a Luciferian concept to trap all these animals into this agriculture and then slaughter them and eat their flesh. I mean, what are we doing here, folks? How are we even equating that with godliness? The best that you can say is, I'm going to, just like smoking, you could say, this is my lower nature. I'm going to give into it now. And next time I'm going to try a little bit more. You can't rationalize and make it okay that you know, you're allowed to have the liberty to torture these animals and eat their flesh, which gives you heart disease and cancer. Anyways, passionate subject for me because this is the reason that the Urantia book community isn't changing the world, because they don't understand where we're supposed to go with this. They still want to put animal husbandry in there, and it's not, okay? The site chosen for the garden was probably the most beautiful spot of its kind in all the world. Oh yeah, but that pit where we fill up with all the animal blood and the flesh and so, oh, ignore that. No, they're going for beauty here, folks. And the climate was then ideal. Nowhere else was there a location which could have lent itself so perfectly to becoming such a paradise of botanic expression, not calf heads hanging on stick expression, right? And also another thing, another way to look at this, if you think that, you know, animal slaughter is so godly, then go to church someday, and then in your Sunday's best, head on over to the animal slaughter. Head on over to the slaughterhouse and watch that in your Sunday's best right after you get out of church with your family, if it's so godly. In this rendezvous, the cream of the civilization of Urantia was foregathering. Without and beyond, the world lay in darkness, ignorance, and savagery, as it still does. Eden was the one bright spot on Urantia. This is within you, folks. That's the bright spot within you. Even if you are somebody who hasn't got your self-mastery down, but at least don't rationalize it for yourself, because man's rationale is one of his worst enemies. You can rationalize away all of your debased tendencies, and I know this because I do it myself. I look at myself. But at least when you decide to say, no, that's not the godly path, and that evil isn't God, evil isn't good. Don't think that you can get all Eastern about it and that you can go to this absolute level and make it into the where evil has become good. We're in relative time-space reality, and we have to deal with relative time-space evils, folks. That's what the point of this is, to use growth of character to make those higher choices. So, at your own pace, obviously, you don't even have to master it. And this isn't do it now or else. This is, you could, hey, go your whole life, don't even master it. But you're going to have to pay the price. I mean, that's just the way that things are set up. You're going to have to, inherent in every evil is the seed of its own destruction. So eventually, you're going to get it together, you know, and that's why Jesus was able to teach what he taught, that faith alone will grant you the eternity, because then those beings now in their next life and in their next level, then they can tackle that. But wouldn't you rather get it here and now? Wouldn't you rather get on with it now? Get on with the glory, walk in the light, walk in the roses now? I know that I sure would. For me, because I have embarked upon it and I've had those experiences where when I was at my most clean, dietarily, habitually, and all of that, body clean habits and things, is when I had the spiritual epiphany. And so now for me, it's just a matter of getting back to it. I'm not where I want to be, obviously, but it's a process. But I think the thing where I'm able to teach about this is because that I'm not rationalizing it. I'm saying, and in fact, maybe it makes even more coming from somebody who hasn't mastered it, to say that I'm in it with you, and we're working together, but at least we're working together towards a commonality here, which is letting go of this disgusting savagery, folks, about this dietary crap. Eden was one of the bright spots in Urantia. It was naturally a dream of loveliness. Wow. And it soon became a poem of exquisite and perfected landscape glory. This is happening on planet Urantia, on this planet Earth, people. This is our potential. We can potentially have this, but we just have to get over those things. All right, let's look at the fate of Eden here. After the first garden was vacated by Adam, it was occupied variously by the Nodites, Cuttites, and Sunites. Do I want to read this? There's vast submergence. They lost the thread here, people. They defaulted. They went against their mission. They were supposed to be here. Let's look at this. They were supposed to be material uplifters. Adam and Eve arrived on Urantia from the year AD 1934 when this book started being written. 37,848 years ago. That's about the timeline there. It was in mid-season when the garden was in the height of bloom that they arrived. At high noon and unannounced, the two seraphic transports, that's how beings are brought from planets, transported across space through transport angels, basically, accompanied by the Jerusalem personnel entrusted with the transportation of the biologic uplifters to Urantia, settled slowly to the surface of the revolving planet in the vicinity of the temple of the Universal Father. All the work of rematerialization of the bodies of Adam and Eve was carried on within the precincts of the newly created shrine, and from the time of their arrival 10 days passed before they were recreated in dual human form for presentation as the world's new rulers. They regained consciousness simultaneously. The material sons and daughters always serve together. It is the essence of their service at all times and in all places, never to be separated. They are designed to work in pairs. Seldom do they function alone. So also, again, example for us here, folks, this pairing that happens between men and women that is that there can accomplish more together than they each could alone and separately. That's like a synergy that exists. So this is our example. Not only do they materially uplift, they could just send the material, life plasm that they need to send and uplift, but it's to be an example of lifestyle and culture that they actually come and dwell here. And this will help people that are trying to battle out in their mind whether or not there was, all these Joe Rogan ancient alien theory stuff about whether we were uplifted by, DNA in order to make these extreme advances in all of these different fields and things like that, building practices, your pyramids, all this and that. Well, your Urantia book answers it right then and there. Yeah, that is, not only did that happen here, that is the procedure for every inhabited world that they receive a material son and daughter. Let's look a little bit about their background. The planetary Adam and Eve of Urantia were members of the senior corps of material sons on Jerusalem, being jointly number 14,311. They belonged to the third physical series and were a little more than 8 feet in height. At the time Adam was chosen to come to Urantia, he is employed with his mate in the trial and testing physical laboratories of Jerusalem. For more than 15,000 years, they had been directors of the Division of Experimental Energy as applied to the modification of living forms. And then they come to this planet, and so you're supposed to have these 15,000, more than 15,000. That's just how much one of their gigs was. But you have these 15,000-year-old beings on the planet, and they're able to guide you towards helpful living, to help solve these world's problems, and not only that, to give DNA that's more receptible to spirituality and more resilient of disease. And somebody, if you're a reincarnationist, you could say, well, I'm 15,000 years old because I've had, many thousands of lives and so forth. Well, then you need to be able to say something of wisdom that's more than just a couple facts about Cleopatra and that you were born in, XYZ. You see what I mean? The difference? It wouldn't make sense. If you were 15,000 years old, if you had lived for 37,000 years on this planet or whatever it was, well, they defaulted long before that. But you would have this knowledge and you would be able to teach this knowledge. Other than that, it's a pacification. It's an idea. It's a mental head trip to go into the fact that you're 15,000 years old, but not be able to give us 15,000 years worth of knowledge. It's just and the universe isn't set up on that. What's that? Inefficiency or just like, things that don't make sense. When the proclamation was issued calling for volunteers for the mission of atomic adventure on Urantia, remember we had already defaulted here, the Planetary Prince. We were already in worldwide chaos. The entire senior corps of the material sons and daughters volunteered. They wanted to really roll their hands up. That's the biggie there. That's the one that really will test us. The Melchizedek examiners, with the approval of Lana Forge and the Most Highs of Edentia, finally selected the Adam and Eve, who subsequently came to function as the biologic uplifters of Urantia. So they chose them out of many. Adam and Eve had remained loyal to Michael during the Lucifer rebellion. Nevertheless, the pair were called before the system sovereign and his entire cabinet for examination and instruction. The details of Urantia affairs were fully presented. They were exhaustively instructed as to the plans to be pursued in accepting the responsibilities of rulership on a strife-torn world. They were put under joint oaths of allegiance to the Most Highs of Edentia and to Michael of Solvington, and they were duly advised to regard themselves as subject to the Urantia Corps of Melchizedek receivers until that governing body should see fit to relinquish rule on a world of their assignment. This Jerusalem pair left behind them on the capital Satania and elsewhere 100 offspring, 50 sons and 50 daughters, magnificent creatures, who had escaped the pitfalls of progression and who were all in commission as faithful stewards of the universe trust at the time of their parents' departure for Urantia. So they make beings. They're like designed to make a lot of offspring. These ones were on in these Morantia worlds, not on this planet that they left, but they navigated the rebellion successfully. And they were all present in the beautiful temple of the material sons, attendant upon the farewell exercises associated with the last ceremonies of the bestowal acceptance. These children accompanied their parents to the dematerialization headquarters of their order and were the last to bid them farewell in divine speed as they fell asleep in the personality lapse of consciousness which precedes the preparation for seraphic transport. The children spent some time together at the family rendezvous, rejoicing that their parents were soon to become the visible heads, in reality the sole rulers, because we had no more planetary prince, of planet 606 in the system of Satania. And thus did Adam and Eve leave Jerusalem amidst the acclaim and well-wishing of its citizens. They went forth to their new responsibilities, adequately equipped and fully instructed concerning every duty and danger to be encountered on Urantia. So that is just a little bit of background about these beings. Look, they even have their number and everything like that. So, yeah, some of it's faith, but it's not blind faith, because it answers that question about how did society make this leap? All that ancient alien stuff. They're not aliens, though. It's the thing. They're coming from spiritual capitals in the universe. So, anyways, folks, we'll look at more of that, because it goes on to say how they also practiced the raw vegan diet, health and care. Look at the teachings, health and care of the body, not everything in moderation, right? Because what are you going to have? Arsenic in it. You're going to have heart disease in moderation, and you're going to have, diabetes in moderation. That's everything in moderation, right? So it's all there, folks. It's all there. You can do your mental gymnastics and stuff like that. And I've done it, and I've been there. And now for me, it's, like I said, it's more about trying to attain self-mastery, but at least I know which direction I would like to head in, rather than this direction of pacification or justification, rationalization, and self-deception. Okay, folks, remember the evil beings pander to the base desires, right? They're panderers, the master panderers. They know how delicious it is to bite into that juicy T-bone steak. So you can put it on every single TV screen every 5 seconds. You can put it in every newspaper ad every 5 seconds. They're going to make billions off it, and then they're going to make billions off selling you the supposed treatment once it makes you sick. It's just the way, folks, and we can unwind from it. We can change the world, but it's not going to happen unless we get that aspect of it together and on the same page. All right, folks, take care.